Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. All right. Today on the Develop Yourself podcast, I have Nils, a former Varsity student, graduate, and a former doctor of music, who's going to talk to us about life after graduating a boot camp. He's 6 weeks into his new role as a software engineer. I want to talk about that, what he's learned along the way, what he would tell others who are looking to break into this profession, and generally, what life after boot camp is like. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we were talking before the cameras, quote unquote, rolled about your former life, and I was shocked that you're a doctor of music, but then I was also noticing a trend that musicians tend to be overrepresented in this field, and you had some interesting insight into that.
Yeah, as we talked before, I think musicians are just really good at identifying patterns. As we live in patterns, like as when you're learning your instrument, you learn scales and arpeggios, and then how does that translate into actually reading a piece of music and making a sound on your instrument? From a conductor standpoint, you're looking at all these different voices. How do they come together to make something bigger than the sum of their parts? Mm-hmm. And it's very much like a React app with all the different components and how they interact with each other.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I remember my lead developer at a really, really top-notch company was a former musician. And I was like, man, there's something there. But you've, I think, maybe hit on something there. So what made you go from musician, a doctorate in music, and teaching at a college level, right? Like at a higher education level of music. And then at some point you say, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to build software.
There are a lot of factors that came into this decision to do a different career at the age of 44, I think it was when I made this choice.
Wow.
A lot of it had to do with having control over where we live. There aren't many music professor jobs in every town. So anytime
I can imagine not.
Anytime you look for a new job, you're going to be moving across the country. I was single. That wasn't a big deal. But as my family started to grow, that didn't just impact me. It impacted them as well.
Yeah, right.
And then there were also financial implications. I mean, this wasn't that much upward mobility financially. And as my family has grown, it's become more difficult to support them. So I remember I was in Lake of the Ozarks at my parents' condo and talked to my dad about this and just decided I needed to, if I was going to make a change, I needed to do it now. This is the time to make this career pivot, as I have at least 22 more years before I'm able to retire.
Yeah.
We'll see if I ever do. But I reached out to a good friend of mine who's a successful software engineer, former musician as well. He was in higher ed, I taught with him in Texas.
Okay.
And he turned me on to JavaScript. He said, hey, here's Watch and Code. Go fool around with this a little bit and then check out Code Academy. And I realized very quickly it's just solving problems. It's like figuring out a puzzle.
Yeah.
And that's what, as a musician, we do that. We get these notes on a page from a composer and we try to make it come to life. We solve a problem every day. So it translated and resonated well with me, and I really enjoyed it. But I also knew that I needed some sort of structure. I couldn't do that. I didn't want to do learn to code on your own, self-taught.
Yeah.
I wanted some sort of structure, curriculum to follow. So I started investigating boot camps, and that's how I ended up finding Varsity.
Interesting. And it's pretty typical story. Like I see that people that are typically the most successful do that same route. I did that exact same route. I kind of stumbled upon coding, and then I thought, wow, I really like this a lot. And I had really zero clue, even as a Bay Area native, that like people were getting paid these massive amounts of money to write code. But I thought, if I can get paid anything to do this for a living, I'm in. I just want to do this all day long. This is just fun to do. Like, this is solving puzzles. You get that little dopamine kick when you solve something and it feels really good. I think a joy of coding is kind of a prerequisite to being successful at it, because it's hard, whether you go to a boot camp or you go the self-taught route. I just don't know if you can be quote unquote successful or get hired if you don't find some joy in writing code on a daily basis.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So you go to boot camp, graduate. What's it like on the market? You trying to find that first job? How did that happen?
It was really hard.
Okay.
No doubt about it. I worked with Megan in the career services a lot. I also got connected with another recruiter to help me. And both people said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to get hired. And I only ended up having 2 interviews.
Whoa, at the same company or with different companies?
Different companies. One was just random through a post on LinkedIn that I saw. Okay. They weren't actually looking for a programmer, but they were looking for a business analyst with a coding background. I'm like, well, this might be my way to get my foot in the door.
Yeah, right.
And it was a unique situation. I interviewed, got the second round, and then I got a phone call from the hiring manager, and he said, we're not moving forward with you. Okay. But part of my job is to recognize good new talent, and I think we can get you in here as an engineer. And I'm like, I'd like that better.
Yeah, right.
So we did another interview right then and there, and got invited to do a whiteboard, and then I failed miserably on the whiteboard.
What was the whiteboard?
Well, the whiteboard ended up being a simple React problem, but I was told that it was going to be JavaScript, just vanilla JavaScript. And I was okay with that. I had been working on a back-end project for a company for Mack trucks. I was doing some contract work. So I've been living in Node and Express for the last 3 months and hadn't touched React.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I completely forgot some syntax, and I just I'm done.
Oops. Like, well, you told me this, and now here I am, and you've just thrown me a curveball. Thanks.
Yeah. And it all worked out in the end. It turned out about 3 months after I would have started the job, their entire engineering wing got canned. So that would have been, that would not have been
a great experience.
No.
Yeah. Dodged a bullet.
Yes, sure did. But the engineering manager that I interviewed with, he was fantastic. And I'm still connected with him on LinkedIn. And now I actually live in the same area as he does. So we're trying to connect to meet each other in person here sometime soon.
Very cool. So, that's great. That's really smart to do, to maintain those relationships. I think people look at it too much of what's the word? When you look at what can I get from you? And they look at networking as a thing what can you provide for me? And what can I provide for you? And really it's kind of just making friends online.
So my current position, I ended up getting that by leveraging my personal network that existed prior to getting involved with LinkedIn. I mean, I did all the coffee chats and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there's actually a friend of mine, my brother reminded me, hey, our friend from high school, he's a software engineering vice president. Reach out to him.
Dude.
So I did. And he was able to get me the interview. And then I went through 5 rounds of interviews and got an offer.
Sounds pretty typical. I've only worked in software, really. You have another career. Was the 5 rounds of interviews and the whole tech interview thing a shock to you? Or is it kind of okay, this is kind of what I'm used to?
It was spread out over about 3 or 4 weeks. So that was a little different. In academia, typically you have a first round inquiry, virtual like this. And then you get invited to campus, and that's a full day of interviewing.
Okay.
And that might be interviews with different factions, like the search committee, dean, vice president, provost, and then even working in front of students, maybe giving a presentation and teaching.
Okay.
There's a lot involved. Those are at least my interview experience in higher ed is very challenging.
Yeah, it sounds pretty rigorous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this wasn't a huge departure from that. You're kind of okay, I'm kind of used to the multi-round hierarchy of people that I need to now impress or get past to get the offer.
Yep. Yeah. And they were just conversations.
Yeah.
There's a lot of storytelling.
I was going to ask you that. Any data structures, algorithms?
No.
I knew it.
No. It was primarily, I think, culture based and making sure that I knew technologies and could speak the lingo. And fortunately, I had a lot of experience through my back-end work or my contract work that I could talk about struggles that I had, or how, if I didn't ask enough questions at the front, how that impacted me later in the building process. If I'd have known something ahead of time, it would have made the building process a lot easier.
Man, that is really good insight too, because I'm sure in hindsight it's 2020, but do you see, if you were somebody graduating a boot camp, what would you be doing to increase your chances of getting hired afterwards?
I would create opportunities for you to work with other people. Not just build side projects, but build something for somebody, like a stakeholder where you have an agreement. I went next door to where my office was at the college. A gentleman started a barbecue joint, like a premium barbecue supplies, but he was also selling food. And he had his grand opening, went in, his business cards with his website, and I went to his website and it was junk. And he said to me, he said, I'm hoping to get some people at the college to help fix it. And I said, well, I'll build one for you from scratch and I won't charge you anything.
Oh, yeah. How can you turn that down?
Yeah. And so I worked with him for a couple months and we built it, and we had to parlay things a little bit based on his POS system, the Clover, and integrating the order system with his point of sale system. But we eventually got it up and running. And then when I got this job here, I had to stop work on it, but I had a friend of mine from Parsity. He ended up doing the CRUD application for him. So now my friend Rob, who owns this barbecue joint, he can go in, change prices, add items, delete items from his menu.
Really cool.
It's basically automated now. So it's really good.
That is really smart. That's such a good idea to do too. I mean, people sometimes hate the idea, or if I say free work, people immediately like get turned off. But I'm like, if you want to get validated, that's an offer that's too good to refuse. If you say, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want you to pay me $1,000, it's not a great offer. You say, I'll do this for free. And then there's low expectations, huge return, because if it works well, then you can use it on your resume and talk about it like you've done in an interview. And it's a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I took it as opportunity for me to learn Next.js and Tailwind. I hadn't worked with either of those two. And I was like, let's
cool.
Put it to work here. Yeah.
That is really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to ask you, so you're a father?
I am.
Okay. You have a full-time job?
I do.
Okay. And how do you find the time? Where did you find the time to do all this stuff?
Well, when I signed up for the boot camp, we knew it was going to be a busy season. Part of the reason why I chose Parsity is because of its asynchronous nature. And as a collegiate educator, I'm not teaching every hour of the day. So I had some windows during the day that I could devote to coding. And then when I went home, I turned that off and it was focused on the kids and the family until the kids went to bed. And then like from 9 p.m. to midnight, be working. And then I'd find times where I'd lose track of time and it'd be 2 a.m. working on things. But I felt the job search season was busier than the boot camp. Because I was doing contract work on top of my full-time job to gain more experience, and then also searching for jobs at the same time. Now that I'm in my full-time role, it's a little easier to set boundaries. I haven't experienced being on call yet, but that'll come soon, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I got to do an episode on call, because you say that word, I immediately know what that means. Most people, did you know what on call meant like 3 months ago?
Not really. No.
Yeah. It's interesting. And for the people listening that maybe don't know, that's when an engineer is typically available like almost 24/7. They'll have some sort of app on their phone that will alert them if there's a critical incident. And the expectation is that they will try to triage, investigate that critical incident, and maybe even fix it, whether that's Sunday at 4 a.m. or Friday at midnight. It's going to be a stressful thing to do. Ideally, it's not really stressful. Ideally, it's one of those things that happens every once in a blue moon, but just somebody's around to fix it.
Well, I from what I can tell so far, my team primarily works on internal tools that are only used by employees where we work. So most of the code reds, I think, happen during business hours.
Okay, that's really good.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. Knock on wood. So now you're in your job, which is usually where the story ends on a lot of episodes. You talk about, oh, you got out the boot camp. Now you got the job. Congratulations. And then they just float off into the ether. But this, in my opinion, is where the real fun starts. And honestly, a lot of stress. I'm in my first 30 days of my new job. And I'll be honest, it's really stressful. I'm finally feeling a little more comfortable. But I'm curious, how are you feeling at your new job?
I'm finally starting to feel like I'm providing some value.
Okay.
I do get a little anxious every time I push up a code review or a pull request for code review.
Yeah.
Because I know that's when people are going to come back with questions, and it's easy to just focus it as a negative experience. But I really try to turn those nerves into an opportunity to learn more. So when someone gives a comment on my code, I will always ask a question, try to ask a question back,
Mm-hmm.
like, or hit them up on Slack in a huddle and say, how would you recommend doing this?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And code reviews, for people that don't know, is a major part of writing code as a profession. You write code and you say, here's what I think we should do. Here's a feature I've written up or some bug I fixed. Somebody else, or maybe multiple people, will then look over that code and then almost certainly going to offer suggestions. We all have our own ways of doing things. Some people are more senior, some people are more opinionated. And if you're a junior, you're usually going to get a lot of comments. And if you're also new in a job, you're usually going to get a lot of comments, and this can feel a little bit deflating. So that's cool that you have that mental fortitude, and also the idea that I'm going to look at this as a learning opportunity, because that took me a long time. I used to look at it like, oh my God, they're just trashing my code.
I just saw it today. I had a code review done today, and it provided more work for me, and I'm excited about it. And I got to refactor the way I approach something, and then it actually made us realize there's some other issues we needed to go after in regards to how our code is interacting with our database. So it is really good.
It makes you feel safer too. Well, I can't speak for you, but I think it makes most people feel pretty safe, right? That you have somebody else like saying, okay, I give this a thumbs up. Because if you're new and you're pushing out code, that is scary too. When you press that button, you're like, okay, I'm going to push this out to all the users. And you're like, oof, will this work or will this blow up?
The chances of me breaking their code are very slim. It's greatly reduced because of the review process.
Yes, right.
As a junior, someone who's green in this field, it's reassuring that someone else is going to review this before it just hits the market.
Now I'm going to address maybe one of the elephants in the room, because I'm sure a lot of people hearing this, and a lot of people I talk to are like, oh, I'm 30. Am I too old to learn to code? I kind of laugh. I'm 40. I know another guy that's a mentee of mine who's not in Parsity. He's a little over 40, just got his first job as well. One of the senior developers I worked with in the past was 70. I just think it's funny that people sometimes limit themselves because of their age. And you had a good point. You said, I'm going to be working for another 2 decades at least.
Yeah.
But in general, does age ever come up, or has it come up? Is it a thing you think about? Is it not?
It hasn't really come up with how I interact with the other people on the team. I'm basically being mentored by someone who's in their mid-20s, and they're running circles around me, and it's great. I'm learning so much from watching work.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And my friend who got me the interview, he said once the offer finally came, we talked a little bit more candidly. He said, unlike a 22-year-old with a CS degree, you have a lot more soft skills and probably more humility, or just from being older.
Career. Yeah, right.
It's things that we don't have to teach someone who's fresh out of college. You already have those skills when you come here.
I think people don't consider that enough. I think that's a superpower a lot of people that have a previous career or a little bit older that we don't think about, because a lot of writing code or being a software developer is more than writing code. You're dealing with stakeholders, multiple teams of people, oftentimes people that aren't technical. And there's office politics. That's just the reality of, I don't care where you work. There's going to be some level of politics and understanding okay, who's, important here to impress? Who's the person who's kind of in charge of things, that maybe has the title, but it's not quite, reflective of what their actual status is here. You're trying to figure out who do I need to impress and shake hands with, and if I want to climb this ladder here a little bit. And it's not all about who can write the best code. If that was the case, that'd be really terrible, actually, because there's a lot of really great code writers that are awful people managers. And if your goal is to get to that level, you have to do a lot more than just write sexy code all day long.
Well, it's the same with the job hunting process.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of took that for granted, because even when I taught music, I took the approach of, I want my work to speak for who I am versus getting a job from who I know.
Yeah.
And I've found in at least in tech, I think it's more so heavier related to who you know, especially with how many people are applying for jobs these days.
Yeah, totally. And your approach is eerily similar to mine too. I went on Facebook 10 or 11 years ago now, and I said, hey, who can teach me code or something like that? I said something silly, just some random question about who's a software engineer that can help me out. A guy I hadn't spoken to in at least a decade reached out and said, hey, I'm a software engineer. and he was near me. I'm in the Bay Area, and he just reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to meet up?" I think people that write code do it for a hobby, most of us. So we're always kind of open to talk about it and meet with people, which is really cool. And he just schooled me. He had me on my first contract and just put me to work. And it was like a big game changer. And the guy that ended up hiring me, I worked with in a warehouse. And he recognized me from the warehouse. He said, "Wait, I think I know you from the," and he called up another guy that we worked with, a mutual friend, and said, "Hey, how was he as like a worker there?" And the guy's like, "He was good. He was, he gave me the green light," and they went ahead and hired me. And that was the deciding factor. And I'm like, it's crazy who you know or who's within a few degrees of separation that might be able to hook you up.
Even my first contract role came through someone I knew. My family is good friends with a family, and the dad, his name is Aaron. He played fiddle in a little folk band.
Okay.
And their accordion player was a software developer who created this app. And so he had his little business, and I connected with him at one of their concerts. I said,
Very
"Hey,
cool.
I'm going into this." And he says, "Let me know when you're done with your boot camp. We'll find something to help you bridge the gap between your boot camp and your first full-time job." So that's where I got that with him.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Were you doing this intentionally? Like, were you thinking of all this as you're going through Parsity and like thinking, how am I going to like increase my chances? Or is this just a natural thing that you just did?
I just wanted to connect myself with, we were in a very rural part of Southeast Ohio and Northwest West Virginia.
Okay.
Not a big tech hub.
Yeah, for real.
Se, but
seriously.
When I found out there was someone there who had their own business that was a software engineer, I wanted to reach out and connect with them. So I at least had someone local that could potentially support me.
And me again in the Bay Area, I don't even recognize sometimes how lucky I am, because I can walk out the door, go to some of the best tech conferences in the world and meet people that are shaping the tech industry. You, on the other hand, are kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, and you're still able to find people that are in the industry writing code. And the tech stack we teach at Parsity is honestly, it's generic. It's a generic tech stack, and that's by design because, makes sense. We want to teach to the masses. But where you live, what is the tech stack that's dominant, and how did you incorporate that into what you already learned at Parsity, or did you?
Well, now live in Kansas City. We moved this summer for this stage. Kansas City was kind of the target. The initial goal when I enrolled in the boot camp was find remote work, spend a couple years working remotely, and figure out where we want to live. But it became evident pretty quickly during the summer 2023 that finding remote work is going to be much more difficult than it used to be. Yeah. So I started focusing all of my connections on LinkedIn with engineering managers in the Kansas City area.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
And it seemed that most companies here, there was a lot of Java and a lot of .NET.
Yeah, .NET, of course.
Yeah. But I didn't really want to delve into those unless I knew I was going to be using them.
Good point.
Yeah. And it just so happened that where my friend worked, they're primarily MERN stack with TypeScript, some SQL, but for the most part, it's MERN.
Okay.
A lot of Lambdas. I'm learning how to create Lambdas with AWS.
Oh, I'm actually adding that to the curriculum at Parsity. I was like, you know what? This has become such a normal thing that quote unquote front end engineers need to learn how to do now. I feel like anybody that knows JavaScript, you're in a full stack capacity, you're likely going to be interacting with Lambdas because everybody uses AWS. So that's something I'm adding to the curriculum soon. Very cool. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness you had with not like just going ham and learning all these different technologies, which is what I see a lot of people do. They think, well, I need to know Java, C# and .NET because of the market where I live. And then they have no interviews coming up for any of those kinds of roles. And now they're just spinning their wheels, learning these like 6-7 different frameworks and languages, which don't materialize into opportunity for them, unfortunately.
You can only get great at a few things. You can dabble in a lot. But there'll become a point, like even with my whiteboard interview that I did terrible on in React, I had just been away from React for 3 months.
Yeah.
That was it.
Crazy.
And that was it. We forget it.
Yeah.
So if you're not actively using it, it's going to go away.
Oh, for sure. It's funny. And React has been moving quicker than usual in the last like year or so. So if you took away 3 months at like one of those pivotal shifts, it could be really crazy to come back and say, wait, we're not using, class components. Oh, Next.js is the thing now. What the hell just happened? You know what I mean?
Right.
So now you're in the job, and I'm curious, what is like your outlook like in the future? I know you're still really, really new here, but what's something
Mhm.
like you're looking forward to as far as career trajectory? Do you have a plan for like where you want to go in this career?
Yeah, being a teacher and
Hmm.
leading ensembles, music ensembles, I thrive with leading. I feel leadership is a big part of who I am.
Yeah.
And so I eventually would like to be in a managerial position. But in order to do that, I need to know what the people underneath me are doing,
Yeah.
and just do the grind and understand what needs to get done in order to tell people what to do,
Yeah.
or to collaborate, help guide them. I don't want to say tell. That's a
Yeah. I
terrible.
feel you. I feel you.
But I actually spoke to my manager about that the other day. I said,
Hmm.
eventually, I want to be in a team lead point and then at a managerial position.
That's cool. I like that you have that vision already. And it makes sense. I mean, the fact you have a teaching background, just speaking to you honestly, you seem to have really good intentions and know how to talk, which is unfortunately a skill a lot of software engineers don't have. Sometimes just being able to speak in public will set you apart from the majority of software engineers on your team
Yeah.
in general. Yeah, that can be a huge superpower on any team. What's one of the most surprising things that you've learned since becoming a software engineer? Something that was unexpected?
It takes a long time to get a mobile environment set up on your machine. It took about a day and a half to be able to run iOS and Android on my machine.
Oh,
We're using React Native, and Android
oh,
was a
cool.
challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that for a contract recently with some varsity students, and
Mhm.
we were working with this company that has a React Native app, and I was really struggling. And before that, we were working with one that was written in whatever the language slash framework that Android needs. Is it Kotlin? I forget. But it was way more complicated than I imagined. Are you using Windows or Mac?
Mac.
Okay, cool. They give you a nice fancy Mac computer.
They sure did.
I know, isn't that nice?
It's great.
It's great, isn't it? When they send you that Mac, I'm like, oh, here's a big
Yeah.
one. How has your life changed since learning to code, and how has it changed since getting this job?
Well, for one thing, we moved to Kansas City. So I now live 4 minutes from my brother and about 20 minutes from my mom. No longer 13 hours away. So that's not only good for me, but it's good for my whole family, being close to everyone. And
Hmm.
my wife's mom is about to move to the area. So we'll be a lot closer to family. That's been great. I think one thing that's been really good for me is, as a music educator, being a musician is really part of my identity.
Hmm.
And it was really hard to turn that off. And in higher ed, we were also kind of, the expectation was, if there are issues, we're basically on call all the time. So
Hmm.
expected to check our emails in the evening and whatnot. So far with this position, boundaries have been really good. I've been able to, at 5 o'clock, close the computer and don't open it up until the next day. I also have some flexibility in this. It's somewhat of a hybrid role where I work from
Nice.
home 4 days a week and go in on, all the developers go in on Wednesdays. My first week there, I was there every day and it was quite lonely. All the developers were off at home.
Yeah.
No,
Typical.
we do have on our team, we have someone who's based in Austin and another one who's based in, I think he's in Chile.
Okay.
So, but the majority of us are in the Kansas City area. But having the flexibility to be able to help with school drop off, take my kids to school, which will start next week, and then also school pickup is going to be monumental, not just for me, but for my wife and the kids
Oh
too.
yeah.
Being so close, and like even just going home for lunch, just stepping out the door, and here's my family, and I get to have lunch with them in the middle of the day, which I didn't get to do before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I forget about that stuff because I remember driving to work a long ways, and that was just normal. I got used to it. But since I've been working from home in the last 5+ years now, like I've got to be with my youngest kids a lot, pick them up every day, take them to school, just be present. Even when I have to go to work, like one or 2 days a week, if I choose to, it's still that really nice feeling of being able to be present for this time. Because you realize at a certain point, they get older, like 13, 14, they're not going to want to hang out as much. And you don't have a huge window to get that time with them. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah. I'd also say I feel pretty blessed. The team that I was assigned to, everyone on the team is very helpful. Anytime you get stuck, you reach out with a question. Someone's willing to hop on a huddle or lend their expertise or say, "Hey, do you want to shadow me for the afternoon?"
Very
It's
cool.
great. Yeah,
That's awesome. You got lucky. I'd say that happens to a lot of people. I feel like most teams, if they're just decent, that should be your experience. I've definitely met people that don't have that experience though. So that's awesome to hear that you're having that and have like a supportive team where you can grow and have a manager that wants to hear what your aspirations are and people willing to help you out and stuff like that. Very, very cool. That makes me really happy to hear.
The work culture here is fantastic. And
That's
not
awesome.
just within the development sector, but also in the sales and brokerage portion of the business. I think one of my favorite days so far was just this week. We got to go over and watch shadow brokers using the systems that we build and how cool. I work for a transportation company, and they broker between carriers and shippers. So it's a trucking industry, and getting to see the brokers interact with the shippers and the carriers was really fun and really eye-opening.
Yeah, because sometimes people use an app in a way you never would have expected it. They're like, wait, that's not how I intended you to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to do support calls for Grocery Outlet, a big chain of grocery stores that's in California and I think across other parts of the United States now. And we'd build these internal apps for the store owners. And then when I was on call, that meant sitting by a phone where the store owner could call you up and say, "Hey, this stupid app isn't working. You know, who the hell made this junk?" It was like me, the guy that made it, trying to fix it. But it was really interesting because you get to learn like, oh, this is how people are using this stuff. So that's really cool that you get to be that close to the product and like talk to your actual customers, users of the code that you're producing.
Yeah, it was a really unique experience. It was pretty similar to when I was building that barbecue app, because I'd have the store owner, "Hey,
get that feedback loop."
Feedback right away.
Yes. Oh, very cool. Well, to end off, I always want to know, what would you tell people that are considering learning to code? Advice, tips, things you wish you had known before you started?
It's a long journey. Things don't happen very quickly necessarily. Some people, lightning strikes fast. Mm-hmm. But things might not go as planned. Be ready to pivot. And then once you do get into your job, or even when you're in the boot camp itself, document. I try to take about 10 minutes at the end of every day to document about what I've done, what I learned, so that I can come back to it later in the future.
Very
I can
smart.
see, and I have basically this booklet now that shows my progress.
Yeah.
So you can sometimes visualizing it. I think in one of your podcast episodes, you talked about when you were working out.
Yeah, exactly.
Pictures, because when you're in the heat of it, you don't see those small changes. But when you look at it from a larger step back a bit and look at it in another perspective, those changes become much more evident.
Man, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah. And you're right. That's what I did. I had somebody just tell me that when I was younger, when I was learning, they said, have a notebook. And it just stuck with me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what smart people are doing. I'll have a notebook. And I started writing down, and it was really great because then I'd look at my progress. I'm like, oh, I actually am getting better. I actually am a little smarter than maybe I thought, you know?
Yeah. And I would also encourage people to don't forget about your personal network. Another person from my cohort was posting on LinkedIn and wasn't getting anything. And then he made the decision to post something on Facebook. And someone on Facebook, my old friend, just happened to be hiring somebody. So lean on your connections that you already have can open up doors that you wouldn't have imagined.
Excellent point. Yeah, I don't talk about that enough, actually, to be honest with you. That's something I'm so busy on LinkedIn because I've become kind of like this mini influencer on there for business reasons and just because I like to write online. But I forget that, like, before I was doing that, none of the jobs I ever had came from LinkedIn. Like, you know, I'm on there all the time. I have tons of followers and stuff, but still, all the opportunities I got, people are like, I don't know who you are on LinkedIn. It's just like, it's funny how that works out. Really great advice. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me in the audience today and tell us about your journey here. If people do want to find you online, is there a place where you're like online and available? Are you like writing anywhere, doing anything like that?
I'm on LinkedIn, but right now I'm really focused on my job.
Gotcha.
So if someone sends me a connection, I still hover over it every now and then. So if someone sends me a connection request, I'm happy to connect. And if anybody in the Kansas City area is looking for jobs and there's one open with my company, I'm happy to give a referral if we were to meet.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.